Welcome into another edition of Bringing the Heat with Trey Lyle. And before we begin, we'd like to shout out our sponsor for this podcast. That, of course, is My Place Hotels. My Place Hotels is proud to be the official hotel sponsor of Front Stretch with plush beds, in-room kitchens, and pet-friendly hotels. My Place makes for the perfect pit stop when traveling. Racing fans can use promo code FRONTSTRETCH to save 10% off your stay at any of our nationwide properties. That's 10% off nationwide when you use code FRONTSTRETCH. This racing season, make sure to make My Place your place.
It's time for Bringing the Heat with Trey Lyle.
Welcome on in to Bringing the Heat with Trey Lyle. Yes, you heard that right, Trey Lyle. Of course, Brian Nolan and I have swapped duties 2 weeks into it now. And of course, Brian had a great episode of Happy Hour with Dustin Albino of J-Ski. Another man on that podcast, of course, is Dalton Hopkins. He was at the race at Chicago this past weekend. He'll join us in a matter of moments. But folks, this is when Happy Hour and Bringing the Heat come together, because I figured one of the first guests I had to get when I am in charge of the guest on Bringing the Heat was, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Zane Smith. And unfortunately, wasn't able to talk about him boosting my fantasy team up on Happy Hour. But we did dive into a couple of topics. Obviously, he is still alive in the in-season challenge, so we talked about that, if there's any trash talk going on, as well as much more. So get ready, folks. Zane Smith, into the Inferno.
Now it's time for
Rhodes coming and the white flag is out. The final lap. Throw a blanket over the three for the championship. Zane Smith has got it, but Chandler Smith on the inside taking a look. That's Rhodes on the outside. Down the backstretch, Zane Smith, the runner-up each of the last 2 years. Can Rhodes get to the bumper and move him? Zane Smith is winning it, and he has done it. The championship goes to Zane Smith.
To go into the Inferno with Trey.
Welcome, Zane Smith, into the Inferno. Zane, thanks so much for joining me today. Hope you're doing well. Let's dive right into this past weekend in Chicago. You get a 14th place finish. You advance in the in-season tournament, but ultimately, what was your thoughts on your race this weekend in Chicago?
Yeah, definitely a good result, and fortunately got out of there with some stage points. So a good point stay for us to kind of make up, I feel like, for Mexico. But yeah, just a lot of ups and downs, a lot of mistakes that I made and a lot of people made. Just place is so treacherous and really easy to make a mistake. No room for error. But yeah, with that said, to stay alive there towards the end and get a few spots on one of those late race restarts, I think with about 10 to go or something like that. And yeah, that helped getting myself in front of the next kind of group of cars and kind of settle in there and get out of there with the top 15. And yeah, and that builds on to this weekend, putting us in the second group. And it all helps and it compounds. And so, yeah, with that was proud of the weekend, especially with all the adversity thrown at us.
What is Chicago like for the average race fan? They'll see it and be like, oh, it's just it's a street course versus a road course. Like you're obviously you're going to Sonoma this weekend. What, in terms of just the car, what are the main differences between driving a street course in Chicago versus the road course this weekend in Sonoma?
Yeah, I mean, they are very different. Chicago is extremely bumpy. Sonoma is super smooth. I think one of the biggest things that's different is just the visuals. At Chicago, it's extremely narrow, and there's Jersey barriers on both sides, and you're at eye level with them, and you just can't really see multiple corners ahead. And so Sonoma, you'll be in turn 7 or turn 8, whatever, and you'll be able to see turn 11. And so, yeah, Chicago, there's just none of that. And so that's where I think you just see a lot of mistakes happen just because you're trying to hit your marks, and sometimes you get a little too close, clip the wall, and your car just isn't quite the same. And then you see those pileups that happen from turn 10 to 11 there, and people just pile up into it. And so yeah, just the visuals are a challenge at Chicago for sure.
Looking at the in-season challenge, so you now advanced 2 rounds. You're in the quarterfinals. Congratulations, taking on Ty Gibbs this weekend. Do want to ask you about that as we're here with Zane Smith. Zane, you advanced 2 rounds. So how does it feel, the fact that you advanced 2 rounds through the in-season challenge? And then the second part of this is, when you first heard about it, what were your initial thoughts on it? And then has it changed a lot since you've actually gotten to participate and kind of understand how it works, and the advancing each week and so on and so forth?
Yeah, it's cool, and it's one step closer that we are to $1 million and a cool trophy. And so just trying to take it 1 week at a time. And my whole goal going into this second half of the year was to just try to be more consistent, and just click off those top 20, top 15, top 10, top 5 days, and then hopefully find ourselves in contention to win. And I feel like that's what we are doing. That started at Atlanta. Felt I was in great contention to get a win and advance into the playoffs. And with that, we escaped a few wrecks, which made us advance over the 2 team. And then, went into this weekend at Chicago, where Chris is, I think statistic wise, he's probably the best road racer from finishes from the past couple of years. And so knew we had our our work cut out for that one. And then, it's racing. He had engine issues or something, and was able to finish ahead of him. And so that advanced us into this one. And this one's going to be tough too. It was either, I knew if I was going to advance, I was either going to go up against AJ or Ty at Sonoma, and it ends up being Ty, and they're both great road racers. And yeah, regardless, they should both have some, they were going to have good speed this weekend. So, I feel great about where we're going to be. Also, I feel Sonoma's a great track for me, especially after this repave. I think I finished like 15th or something like that last year. And, yeah, just, I feel good about it. I feel we've made our road course, car drive a lot more to what I want. I really feel like that from Chicago on. And so, yeah, excited to see what this weekend brings, and we'll see if we could advance there. Then, Dover, I'll either go up against, I think, Reddick or Priest, I believe. And I like our chances there. And then I don't know past that, but I know Indy's a great track for me. I really enjoyed my time there last year. So, who knows? If we keep being consistent and just being better than whoever we're up against, we'll see how far we can make it. But just proud of the consistency we've been able to bring so far the start of the second half, and hopefully we keep it going.
Is there any, so far with the 3 matchups, is there any trash talk throughout the week with the other guy? Or is it just kind of business as usual, and you see how the result is at the end of the week?
To be honest, on the social media side, I mean, maybe like a little bit of trash talk, which it's all fun, and it's pretty funny what some of these teams are coming up with, but not so much driver wise, I would say. And if it is, it's just kind of a part of the game. But yeah, I mean, we're all focused on getting the best result possible, and just beating as many cars as we can, and the normal guys. But yeah, you're going to be paired up against somebody, and then you kind of get a little feedback here and there throughout the race of like where he's running or if something's going on with them. And so, yeah, just with that, I think that's going to continue for the next 3 weeks. But our main goal is to obviously still advance here in the playoffs.
You returned to FRM this season, obviously won the truck title with them and have had history with them. And then your year with Spire. What was it? Now we're at the halfway point roughly of the season. What is this kind of transition back to them on the Cup Series side now been with the team in the 38? And as you've had to adjust to, this team, even though it's like it's a new team, but not a new team. How has this first half of the year been as you've kind of grown into the season?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of fun being back at FRM and being back with Ford and a lot of familiar partners and being back working with a lot of familiar faces here at FRM. And so, yeah, with that, I feel like we've had a pretty good start to the first half. Just our Daytona 500 was not good, but we had speed. Um, Charlotte had speed, wrecked, and then Mexico had speed and wrecked. And so, just if we didn't have a few of those DNFs, I feel we'd easily be in the top 20 in points. But after this weekend, I felt we closed that big points gap, and I know it just a few points separate where I'm at, and I believe 18th or 19th in points. So, yeah, just need to keep plugging away and being consistent and making our program better and building on the future.
Obviously, your last time in FRM, they had Michael McDowell here, who is kind of the veteran of the team. But now it's yourself, it's Todd, it's Noah, all relatively similar ages. I think you're all 2 years apart. What is it like with kind of the younger, like a younger team in terms of just just you guys are all similar age? I know you and Noah have history both being West Coast guys, both guys from he's from Vegas, you're from California, but what has that been like with having those two as your teammates?
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Just yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with having a younger team. You see a lot of these bigger teams where it's a lot of younger guys as well, and so yeah, just we're all trying to have solid runs. We're all good buddies off the track, which definitely helps with communication on the performance side and that all that is as well. So yeah, we're just trying to get all three of us to have good runs week in and week out. And yeah, I think we see each other here in the foreseeable future and look forward to that.
Obviously, so we mentioned you're in the halfway point of the season, and obviously this season, the NASCAR Cup Series season is such a grind with only the one off weekend. Is there something you do to kind of handle that throughout the season? Is there like a hobby you do? Is there something you just try to find an escape in terms of being able to get yourself mentally prepared each week to get through kind of the grind of what a Cup Series schedule is?
Yeah, I mean it's 38 weeks straight, never a home game, and a lot of traveling. We're just often really busy throughout the week, so just I feel like time flies. But there's good and bad to the Cup Series schedule. There's weeks where it's like, man, I wish we had a week off to maybe regroup, but that's part of just Cup racing. And then if you do have a bad week, uh, the next morning when you wake up, it's Monday and it's a new week, and all focus is on wherever we're going that week. And so, uh, that really helps a lot instead of just dwelling on a bad race or something. And so, the show keeps moving. And so, yeah, it's for sure a grind, but I really enjoy it. It's awesome racing this much, and the longer races are uh, just yeah. I mean, a lot different from I guess coming from the Truck Series, and there's nothing that could really prepare you for Cup. I feel like just once you experience it, you start to adapt and race a little different.
Is there something you do during your off time to kind of disconnect, I guess would be the way to put it?
Yeah, I really don't have too much off time, so not really. And if I do, just try to spend any time I maybe can out on the lake or hang out and just relax at home.
Understandable, understandable. I get that sometimes. Uh, 7 races left before the playoffs. Obviously needing a win at this point to lock yourself in. I know you talked about getting into that top 20 in points. What do you think is the next step for your team in terms of getting that win? Obviously, you came close last year in Nashville. You came close at Atlanta this year. What do you think is the next step for you and then your team to to ultimately end up in victory lane?
Uh, My honest answer is just keep doing what we're doing, and I believe we're going to find ourselves in contention to the first few rows of a restart one of these times, and it's just going to come down to executing it. And so a few things just didn't quite work out at Atlanta for us, but we've had the speed. We just need to execute a full race and find ourselves in contention in one of these later race restarts and see what we could do.
Where do you think you've improved the most now that you're about a season and a half as a Cup Series driver? Where do you think, like, oh, I see myself, this is where I've improved in terms of my skill set over time?
Man, I would say just keeping up with the racetrack. That was a big thing that was different for me, is how much the track changes throughout a race. Never really experienced that in the Truck Series much. And so, yeah, just a lot longer races. So just steadily making your car better, I think, is extremely important in making sure you don't go the wrong way too late in the race. And so, yeah, I would say I've kind of honed in on that. And other than that, I mean, my qualifying performance have been a ton better. And so a lot of positives to bring out from this year, from where I was at last year. And that's good to see.
Final question here for Zane Smith. So a few weeks ago, I think it was during the weather delay, one of the rain delays, Noah and Todd posted how they made I think it was a pickle peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Are you all in on that? Are you trying that too, or are you staying away?
I don't know about that one, but I'm definitely a big Grillos fan. It was cool. We actually went to a pop-up event that they had in Chicago there, and it was cool. Just the amount of activation they do around motorsports and just racing is awesome. And yeah, just it's a really cool brand. I love their product, and I think my favorite are probably the pretty much the spicy or the blazing. And so yeah, extremely good. But no, I think I'm staying away from the whatever that was, pickle and peanut butter and jelly or whatever it was. I don't know about that. I'm just sticking to the pickles.
Understandable. All right, I have to ask you this last question. I have one more. So obviously, speaking of food, Long John Silver's proud sponsor at FRM. I asked Todd this last year, his favorite order. Do you have a favorite order at Long John Silver's?
I think the popcorn shrimp, they say, is the go-to, but we unfortunately don't have one here in Mooresville. So definitely when we're traveling, I think it's like Richmond or something. There's one right on the corner, so we'll have to try that out.
I have been to that Long John Silver's as a Richmond native, so I understand I know exactly where you're talking about. But Zane, thanks so much for spending some time with me today. I appreciate it, and good luck this weekend at Sonoma, and hope you advance.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Thank you. That was Zane Smith, Into the Inferno. Spend some time during a busy week for him as he's preparing for Sonoma. But let's get into what's still hot. Dalton Hopkins now joining us here on Bring the Heat.
What's still hot? It's time to upgrade you on the latest news in NASCAR.
Welcome on into the show, Dalton Hopkins at Pitlane CPT on Twitter. He was down in Chicago with having some deep dish pizza. Unfortunately, he was with Brian Nolan, and unfortunately, he had to do happy hour with Brian Nolan again this week. But ultimately, you survived Chicago. You survived another week of having to deal with Brian Nolan on a podcast. Buddy, how are you? Do you miss me yet?
I of course I miss you, Trey. We all miss you. I miss you every day when I don't get to see your wonderful, pretty face. So today's a good day. Today I am tired. I am tired to answer your first question. It's been a long day for me, at least, but it was also a long weekend. It was a hot weekend. I don't know. You can kind of tell on this camera, like I'm a little sunburned. Like you can kind of tell I've got like the reverse raccoon eyes where I'm more pale around my eyes because I was wearing sunglasses around Chicago. So, tan in like all the wrong places. So that's how Chicago was. It was so hot. So hot.
I may or may not have some peeling skin on my forehead from the sun this past weekend during my Independence Day festivities, but we don't need to talk about that. Let's talk about this Chicago street course race. Mayor Brandon Johnson administration talked about how they're open to 1 or 2 more years of the NASCAR Chicago street race. Obviously, there's rumors about NASCAR going to San Diego. However, they feel that the weekend itself, the July 4th weekend, presents a big issue and that they maybe not want it on that weekend. So, based off of your conversations down in Chicago and how you see it, do you think there's a future here, or do you think NASCAR is going to stand firm on the street course race being the marquee event July 4th?
Yeah, I don't think this is a hill that NASCAR should die on. According to just about everybody I talked to, drivers, media members, fans alike, they all agree that Chicago it's a success, right? I mean, this is a fantastic event. I don't think I can find anybody that doesn't know what they're talking about. Anybody that knows what they're talking about would disagree with that. I think everybody pretty much agrees that the Chicago street race has been fantastic for the last 3 years. And after experiencing it myself, I have to agree. I mean, I honestly thought I'd be really, really excited to go to a lot of different races. I mean, I'm excited to go experience any new track that I go to. But this one was like, it was different. It was different. Like, it was the setting was different. Being able to walk from the hotel to the track every morning was so cool, and by skyscrapers and this beautiful architecture was really, really neat. So it just kind of highlights, like, this is an unprecedented thing that NASCAR has done, yet they tried it, and it's a great success. So I don't really see why NASCAR would say no, it has to be on the 4th of July. Like, it's not like it's a tradition, like, it's not like where fans go there to go see the fireworks. Like, at least not on the track. Like, they go there to watch racing. I mean, they go there to immerse themselves in NASCAR culture. So if they want to move it like a little bit earlier up in the year, or maybe a little bit later, like before the playoffs, I'm fine with that. I don't understand. I don't really see why we couldn't do that. A street race on the 4th of July really does not. It does not have to be on the 4th of July. If anything, maybe move it. Maybe not have it in the summer where it's 95 degrees outside. It's so freaking hot, where it's so freaking hot. So yeah, I agree with the idea that just NASCAR should just play ball. Just work it out with the mayor. And because, I mean, remember 3 years ago, the mayor didn't want this. He didn't want this event. At
It
least
was
the
a
new
different
one did.
mayor than who put it together.
Yeah, exactly. It was a different mayor who wanted it together, and then now we have what was his name again? Is it Ben?
So the one who put it together was Lori Lightfoot, but the
Right.
one who this is Brandon Johnson.
Brandon Johnson. I almost said Ben Johnson. Yeah, Brandon Johnson. And now he's saying, oh, it's almost like a tradition. Well, if it's tradition, then we should keep it around. But if we got to move the date, then fine. Like, whatever, we can do that.
Do you think this would be a case of NASCAR doing San Diego and Chicago, or just one? Because I think it would be just one.
I think it should just be one.
So one or the other.
Yeah, according to almost all of the drivers I talked to, I don't think there was anybody, and I probably talked to about 7 or 8, and asked them that similar question, where it was like, would you support the idea of more than one street race? And a lot of them said no. Like, everyone just kind of agreed it should just be one race.
I would guess
like
someone who would say yes.
Oh yeah, I mean, I didn't
yes.
ask him, but yeah, you can probably guess he probably
4
wants
for
that.
6, and he wasn't in what, at least in one of them, at least, right? That's his record, 4 of 6 of these races.
4 of 6.
He wasn't in the
crashed
first
on the
Xfinity
fourth
race, and he crashed in the other one that he lost.
Yeah. I think that's yes, that's the record. Yeah.
Is Speaking of racing and going back places, NASCAR announced on Wednesday that they're returning to Bowman Gray in 2026. This is not really a surprise. It felt like this all along, but ultimately, do you feel like putting the Clash back at Bowman Gray is the right decision, and ultimately something in which do you think that it, instead of staying at Bowman Gray, should be moved from place to place in a yearly fashion?
I like the idea that we're at Bowman Gray. I mean, I don't know how long it's going to last until maybe it starts losing its luster, kind of like what happened with the Coliseum. Um, the racing was good, and I think the culture was even better. I think the fact that so many fans out there got really energized and really involved, because that's a racing culture. That's the way that those fans are. They're very passionate. So I like the idea of NASCAR going to a place where the fan base is already very passionate, especially for an exhibition event that really doesn't hurt anybody. Having the Clash in LA was cool, but having a team go all the way out to Los Angeles and then all the way back to Daytona and then all the way back out west a couple of weeks later is probably not the best. Is probably not the best idea to have in mind. So I like the Clash at Bowman Gray. And if maybe in 2 years they want to revisit it, sure, why not?
Yeah, I think Bowman Gray for a second year probably is an ideal fit, and then maybe you go to a different place and you keep it just a 2-year rotation for its locations. I also think that being somewhere somewhat local for this race, considering you are having one off week in a 38-week season and having one of the most grueling seasons in all of sports, let alone motorsports, it definitely suits, I think, the teams better instead of traveling all the way out to California, for an exhibition race where you could theoretically only run like 2 laps, considering the structure of the race and how it should work out there. And the final thing also coming out on Wednesday is that the U.S. Court of Appeals, the Fourth Circuit Court, denied the request of 2311 and Front Row Motorsports for a rehearing on the reversal of the injunction that forced NASCAR to recognize the 3-car organization as charter teams. Now, we have a great article by the producer of this podcast, Caleb Barnes, and Samuel Stubbs here that breaks down kind of the minutia of the law side. And Dalton, I think you would agree we are not law experts. I think you would agree with that. So my question is, it appears they're going to be racing in open teams for at least until this trial starts December 1st, unless a settlement happens. What effect do you think it will have on these teams? Because you do have a case of, 2311 has 2 cars in the playoffs as if they started today. And then FRM has shown at least the capability of winning depending on the track on some weeks. Do you think this will have effect on how they handle their races going forward, or do you think they're just going to put as much money as they can towards winning and just kind of eat a big loss and hope they can recoup it in the lawsuit?
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit more concerned for FRM than I am with 2311. I think a lot of people focus on 2311 a lot because that's Denny Hamlin's team, and Denny's obviously the most vocal. But FRM is just as much a part of this, and I feel like they do not have the funding that 2311 has, nor do they have the sponsorship, as much sponsorship, I should say. So what's going to hurt is losing that charter money for the rest of the year, and that's going to hurt them. And I don't know if we'll see a difference in performance, at least not immediately. But you'll definitely see maybe a change of, what's the word, attitude, I should say. Like I think you're going to see probably some more forlorn faces around the garage, especially with the 38, unfortunately. Sorry, Trey, and the 34. I think those 3 cars it's gonna hurt their confidence. It's gonna hurt their attitude, knowing that they're pretty much racing for scraps. Especially, and they're not gonna make a profit at all. I mean, that's just from what I have learned. When it comes to the actual like prize money and purse money and sponsorship and funding, they're not going to make a profit. And now they're going to enter the rest of this year knowing that no matter what they do, no matter how hard they run, they're not going to make up. They're not going to be back in the black. So that's going to hurt them. 2311 is probably also going to feel that, but not as bad, just because they have so much sponsorship and so many partners.
And a billionaire owner.
Well, yeah, FRM is pretty much there too, but you don't obviously your owner should not be fronting the bill. Like, the idea of the race team is to make money, and even though it's so hard nowadays, but ironically, as
the reason behind the lawsuit.
Yeah, exactly the reason behind the lawsuit in the first place. So kind of ironic how that turned out. It kind of shot them in the foot, at least temporarily. So it's going to hurt FRM a lot more than it will 2311, but both teams are definitely going to feel it. Now, I will say, when it comes to like the threat of DNQing, I don't think that's going to be a thing that occurs, at least not for the rest of this year. That won't be a threat until at least, and the situation will be done with by this time, by Daytona 500 in 2026.
Hopefully.
So hopefully, hopefully it'll be done. But I don't think we'll see any more Cup Series fields with more than 40 cars entering for the rest of the year. I just don't foresee that happening.
Yeah, we just saw one. Rarely, it was the first time at a non Daytona 500 since I think 2018 Texas.
Yeah, it was around there.
Ironically, the 2311 car got bumped out, and this past week it was because of a broken toe link by Corey Heim during his qualifying run. But I do think that there had to be some sort of acceptance of, if we go into this, we might be treated as open teams. Because you have to file if you file that injunction, there's a chance you lose the injunction. So I do wonder if both teams were kind of preparing for the idea of we believe in what we're suing over, and we're going to make the money back after the fact by suing for damages. Or I know Bob Pockers of Fox Sports talked about maybe NASCAR just puts the money in escrow and until it's settled, and then they get the money back after the fact. So I do think there could be a way for FRM in 2311 just to hold firm in what they believe, because they think they're going to win the lawsuit. They might have not thought they were going to win the injunction, but they think they're going to win the lawsuit. So, or at least get to a settling point in the lawsuit. We'll see. Again, check out frontstretch.com for that, because Dalton and I, not legal experts. So do not take any of our legal advice. That's what I can say right now. Our great sponsor, My Place Hotels, is offering race fans the ultimate race weekend getaway, partnering with us here at frontstretch.com. They're giving away 2 tickets to the Brickyard 400 race weekend, both the Xfinity and Cup Series race at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, taking place July 25th through the 27th, and a complimentary 2-night stay at the My Place Hotels in Indianapolis during the race weekend. All you need to do is enroll for the My Place Hotel Stay Rewarded loyalty program, clicking the link on any of our Front Stretch social media pages. Head out there, and to see full terms and conditions, you can click the link on our social media page. Thanks so much to our great sponsor, My Place Hotels. A guy who is looking for answers maybe is Cody Ware after his controversial finish this past weekend in Chicago. Brian Nolan got a great quote. Look at me complimenting Brian. What is this world? I did that on Monday too. I did that on my radio show on Monday too. So what a week this has been for me. But Brian got to chat with him, and he is our soundbite of the week.
Well, Tony, what angered you at the end of the race? What did you take issue with?
What the hell do you think I was mad about? Dumb little runs us clear down to the infield. He wants to about everybody else, and he's the one that drives like a little. I'm going to bust his ass.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
And short track racing.
It's time for the sound bites of the week.
I'm here with Cody Ware. Looked like you're going to have a great finish. I look down, I look up, and you're in the tire barrier. Just unfortunate. Just what happened with I think it was about 2 laps to go.
Yeah, so we had an awesome day. I think just big thanks to my team. The Arby's Cheesesteak 51 was fast all day. Track position strategy. We just kept working our way through the field. Unfortunately, put us in a bad spot after qualifying. I had to work our way up there, but thought we had a solid, top 15 day there. We're running, in the top 10, close to the top 10 towards the end of that race, and stayed out on old tires, but was able to hold on. Unfortunately, sort of picking up a left front chatter towards those last couple laps before the rotor blew. So not sure if it's the chicken before the egg, but definitely whatever was going on with that left front is what ended up finally giving in that car going into turn 6. So super frustrating because it's not been the best year for us. So to be able to show up here, me not having run this race the past 2 times and feeling like we had good pace in the car, heartbreaking, but I think it's still a day that we can build off of, especially going into another road course race next weekend with Sonoma. So hopefully we can take our notebook from this weekend and build on it for next weekend.
I was looking on Twitter, and they had your in-car. I think it was about 45 seconds until they threw the yellow. Were you surprised by that?
Yeah, especially given the speed of how fast we were, going into the barrier, obviously I'm not going anywhere and there's not much I can do at that point. But obviously at that point I'm just focused on getting out of the car and getting to a safe spot. But I thought it was a great race. I thought everyone was actually racing really good, really clean all day. For it being on a street course, I think everyone was on their A game. And so, had a lot of fun today. Obviously a pretty, crappy end of the day, but looking forward to taking what we learned today and building off it at Sonoma.
Cody Ware, his post-race reaction after crashing out during the race in Chicago on that final lap with 2 to go. Ultimately, it was 43 seconds between impact and
somewhere around there.
And NASCAR getting to him, or the safety crew getting to him. Dalton, there are a lot of factors that went into that caution call. Obviously, they talked about Kyle Larson the year before getting out of the tire barrier. I think NASCAR is never going to admit this, but weather playing an impact on it and late in that race. Ultimately, do you think NASCAR probably made the wrong call here, but were afraid of if they threw that yellow with just dense fog coming in, that they were going to have another year of this race being impacted by weather, whereas now it's finally they got the whole race in, kind of cleanly?
I think they made the wrong call for the right reasons. Now the whole idea, I genuinely don't think that it was on purpose, that they purposefully withheld the caution until SVG crossed the line. I honestly don't think that happened. I mean, let's break this down. Like, SVG was coming out of turn 11 from what I've been told, and Cody Ware, I was on pit road when this occurred, so I don't know exactly where everyone was, and Cody Ware hits the wall. So from turn 11 to the start finish line, it's not a lot of time. Excuse me, it's not a lot of time. So I don't think it's probably about a solid, 12, 14 seconds around there. So I don't really think, NASCAR was like, wait, hold the caution for don't do it because we just want to end the race. And then they waited another 20 seconds after SVG crossed the line and they were like, okay, now throw it. From what I have heard, the excuse is they just missed it. And that doesn't make it better, because you should always have eyes on the entire track, right? And I know they have somebody. I know they were officiating apparently from Charlotte, from their headquarters in Charlotte, and there could have been a delay, if they just don't have eyes on it, like, why not? I mean, that's a high speed corner after a very long straightaway. I mean, there is a potential for something like that to occur the entire race. So why is there not eyes on? And you have dudes standing there waving flags. I mean, do they have radios? Are they able to call that in? So I think you got personnel there, and I listened to the DJD earlier today, and they were like, oh, why don't they just have somebody at every corner watching every part of the track? And they were like, oh, that we can't do that. It's like, well, why not? Why can't you do that? You don't have the personnel.
You had a guy waving a flag.
Yeah, you had a guy waving the flag right there.
I don't know why you were waving the blue flag there. I was like, I was sure there was no lap cars, and then in my mind, the blue flag means you have to, yield. But
now and there's the whole argument of, well, maybe NASCAR was waiting for. I think what happened was NASCAR saw it as soon, like the same way we saw it, and they saw that there was a car in the tire barrier. They hadn't realized how bad it was, and they thought, okay, maybe Cody can back up and get going, so let's give him time to do that. And then they realized, no, we can't do that. So it was just a perfect storm, and NASCAR is damned if you do, damned if you don't yet again. So it's just, it is the way it is. It was not pretty to see, but I don't think there was anything miscellaneous. I don't think there was anything nefarious occurring there.
Yeah, my only gripe with their process of saying they didn't see it is they had one of their own employees point out the crash before, which is, it's MRN, but it's technically a NASCAR employee. But
right.
I think it was Dave Moody, as someone who's listening. I actually had to listen to the race on the radio, and he mentioned, like, the brake failure instantly. He mentioned the hard crash, and he mentioned the window net going down instantly. And to me, like NASCAR, if they were looking and waiting for him, the indicator should have been the fact the window net was down. And as soon as they saw that, throw the caution. And I get that they like the fact they didn't see that, to me is very alarming. And maybe, you know, they'll learn from their mistake and it happens, but it's kind of unfortunate to see. All right, Dalton, one final turn. We're heading to that checkered flag. Let's wrap this podcast up.
It's going to be a drag race all the way back to the start-finish line. No caution. They're side by side, right to the line. Big crash. Here they come. Checkered flag.
The checkered flag is out, and it's time for the final thoughts.
Checkered flag's out. Anything you want to rant, rave, or review about Dalton Hopkins? Floor's yours.
Yeah, I think it's. I should. I was thinking about this like the whole podcast. I was wondering, like, man, what? I know it's going to be. We're going to have a rant session. I don't really know which one it's going to be, but I think I am. I do want to. Here's one. Here's a good one. So I'm sorry that took me a second, but now I got one that came to mind. I talked to Joey Logano. I don't know if that's you could really say that, but I caught up with Joey Logano after the race, and he gave the whole soundbite of, you know, he admitted it. He being Ross Chastain, he admitted it. He wrecked me. He should be fined for that. Look, I'm gonna go hands off on whether or not he should have been fined, whether he should be or shouldn't be. Frankly, it's a tough situation, and it's a good thing that I'm not getting paid to make that call. However, I seem to recall there was a time in NASCAR where the idea of a driver getting out of a car and immediately going to media, like drivers would not, the idea wasn't, oh, I need to go to media and complain and say he wrecked me on purpose, he should be fined immediately, NASCAR should do something. This used to be a self-policing issue. This used to be an idea where if somebody wrecks me, next week I'm going to come back and wreck him. And then the matter is resolved, or 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks, what have you. And then the matter is resolved, and then we're okay again. But nowadays, it feels like drivers are like, they're too scared to do it because they think they're going to get fined. And the way that they make that work now is they get out of the car and they just immediately find the nearest microphone or cell phone and say, yeah, he wrecked me, he should be fined. NASCAR, do something. Like that. I feel like that's how people do things nowadays. And that's like, Joey, if you feel wronged, if you feel like Ross intentionally wrecked you, he did. I agree, he totally did. But if you feel like Ross intentionally wrecked you, wreck him back. Like, just don't admit it though. Just don't say anything. Like,
You're
just
part
get
of
him,
the most
get him at
infamous
Sonoma.
one, like ever, maybe. Of
Yeah,
the guy wrecking you back.
But look how Matt Kenseth handled it. Kenseth didn't say he was going to do that. Kenseth didn't even admit that he did it, even in the interview right after it happened. Like, he just did it because that's a self-policing issue. He got him back. That's how he resolved that problem.
Well, the good news is the person he did talk to is a stud, and that's Dalton Hopkins.
Well, Bob Pockers too. Mostly Bob Pockers.
Buddy, I was just
was there.
giving you, but you just decided to take my alley-oop and just like throw it into the other basket.
Oh, well, no, I just
You could have said, "Yeah, you're right. I did a great job."
I just wanted to be accurate.
It's your video. They can hear Bob in it.
Yeah.
My rant is about Dalton. All right.
Okay.
You know what?
Oh no.
I've decided.
Oh no.
This guy right here is so humble about himself that he just is not even taking credit for the great work he did all weekend. He got shouted out on DBC. Gets talked about on the teardown how he's a great guy. So Dalton, drivers are very confident about their abilities. You need to be confident about your abilities. Okay.
I don't want to be too proud of.
That's how I'm ending it. That's
okay.
I'm doing it.
All
you know what? I'm taking this over. I can do what I want.
Thank you.
Humble said I can do what I want.
Very nice.
I'm doing my best. All right. Speaking of the great content you make, by the way, you wrote one of the best articles that our site has seen recently that is very well, like actual journal. You just did actual journalism. Let's be real.
I know. Can you imagine
I
somebody
have
working at
brought
Front
on
Stretch?
I brought on to Front Stretch, even though I have an actual journalism degree. I have an actual journalism degree. In my history, I've done like 0% of journalism. I host a radio show and talk for a living. So I don't know if I do you did actual journalism, but anything else you want to plug for frontstretch.com outside of your wonderful truck series article, which I know is like 2 weeks old at this point, but still is so good. And I know we talked about it on the watch party. We talked about it on my radio show. But anything else you want to plug before we get on out of here?
Yeah, I do have an article coming out tonight, potentially tomorrow. I don't know at this point.
Well, this podcast comes out tomorrow afternoon, so it
So
might
there
be
you go.
out by the time
Okay.
so by
Well,
the time you record it,
wonderful people who are listening to this in the future, if the world isn't destroyed, you can check out my wonderful article about Tommy Joe Martins, and the last 5 years, in which he has run a race team that's eventually evolved into Alpha Prime Racing. I spoke with him at Pocono, so you can check that out. And then I have Thinking Out Loud coming out this weekend on Sunday afternoon after Sonoma race.
Yeah, check that out. Obviously, we had a great episode of the Pit Straight this week with Tom Blackburn and Peter Malloy. Wyatt Watson knocked that down. Plus, a great episode of Happy Hour. It's in my queue to watch it. I did tune in for a little bit of it. Did enjoy Massey's song this week, or should I say Pucomb's song this week. Dustin Albino from J-Ski was the guest. Had fun there as well. And then also coming out on Friday, your betting tips with Through the Gears, Wyatt Watson covering that as well. And I think Caleb Barnes, who's producing this, is finally going to show up and do Stock Car Scoop. I think he's been inspired too much by Brian Nolan, and I need to change that. The way he's not showing up to do his podcast these last couple of weeks.
Hanging out with a bad crowd.
I don't know. Brian must have said, this is how you have a successful podcast. You show up every other week and make your producer do it. See, I've been too nice to Brian this week. I had to end it with that.
Yeah,
and
I was too mean to Brian last week, so I'm gonna plead the fifth.
That means he agrees. All right, for Dalton Hopkins, follow him at Pit Lane CPT. You can follow me at Trey Lyle VT. Signing off for now. We'll be back next week with another episode of Bringing the Heat with Trey Lyle.
My Place Hotels is proud to be the official hotel partner of Front Stretch. With plush beds, in-room kitchens, and pet-friendly hotels, My Place makes for the perfect pit stop when traveling. Front Stretch fans can use promo code FRONTSTRETCH to save 10% on your stay at any of our nationwide properties. Sign up for our Stay Rewarded program to get even more savings. With My Place Hotels, don't just stay rewarded.